So I just posted this on Facebook. Today is January 16th, 2023, Martin Luther King Day. And here's a true story. So it was January 20th, 2009, and my mother, Rhoda Friedman Prime, we don't call her the first, she's Rhoda Friedman Prime. She and I were sitting on the couch in my house in Temecula, and we were watching Obama's inauguration. We're sitting on the couch, and she's crying and dabbing her eyes with the tissue, and holding hands and watching the inauguration. And she had about 2 months to go before she passed away on March 26th. And she says, "I'm so glad I lived to see this moment." And I said, "It's great." I said, "I wish Dr. King was alive to see this too." And she says, "You know, Dr. King had a speech in Washington, and your father and I were there to hear it." And I said, "Really? You never mentioned this before." She said, "I never said anything after he was killed." And she just had this look on her face. She had seen the great three assassinations in the 60s, John F. Kennedy, Dr. King, and then Robert Kennedy. Matter of fact, she was sleeping and she said that the shots woke her up. So she never talked about being in Washington for the "I Have a Dream" speech. So she said, "We were there." I said, "Really? You never told us about this. Tell me, what happened? What'd you do? What's this?" She said, "Well, B'nai B'rith Youth, BBYO, it's a Jewish girls organization, and she had a lot of synagogues and a lot of the local Jewish organizations decided they were going to go and show off brotherhood, sisterhood, to go hear Martin Luther King's speech. There was a lot of unity back then. In the civil rights struggle, everybody wanted good rights. And they got on buses and they drove down to Washington, D.C. And Mom said there was no room to move. They said Washington, D.C. was totally full. They didn't use the word gridlock, but the city was completely full. And I said, "Mom, did you get to see Dr. King?" She said, "We couldn't even get close." And she said, we were blocks away. Everything was on loudspeakers. You could hear him and everybody cheering, but we couldn't see anything. So they were there to hear "I Had a Dream" and all the great speeches that Dr. King gave. And they were there for, all day, and took them all night to get home. Mom says it was very hot. It was August. It was very, very hot and sticky, but they brought food and water and everybody shared. It was a great kumbaya, one of those great moments in a lifetime, and they were there for that. And then she said it took them all night to get home. They didn't get back to Philly until sunrise. So I said to her, "Mom, where was I?" She said, "You were with family back in Philadelphia." "Where was my sister?" "I was just pregnant with my sister, so she was probably in her first month." So that was where we were. That was August of '63. President Kennedy was still alive too. And then we stopped and listened to Obama give his speech. And I think all this time that never would have known this if Mom hadn't been sitting next to me during Obama's inauguration. Actually was in Washington for "I Had a Dream." Happy Martin Luther King Day.